Okay, I think this was, I mean, when we also were in government in 22 to 24, taxation was an issue that we also faced. There was a lot of criticism when we introduced new taxes, when we had to increase VAT, personal income tax, all of that. First and foremost, I think we had to remember that Sri Lanka is a bankrupt nation. We had to go to the international community, to our bilateral creditors, and ask them to restructure our debt. That meant that their taxpayers in respective countries had to take a hit somewhere. They had to shoulder a bit of the burden that out of whatever the decisions by their governments, they gave us money, they had to shoulder the burden now on this debt restructuring. So as a country, we also have to show the international community that we are also more than ready to shoulder a burden for an economic crisis that was a homegrown issue. Let's not beat around the bush. It was due to poor policies. So based on that, yes, an increase in taxation was required. It was slashed in 2020, so we had to bring it back to a pre-2020 level. Now that doesn't mean that that's where it ends, and that we just continually increase taxation on the public, saying that we have to reach these targets. A government expenditure is obviously covered by the government revenue. Now, when we break down our government expenditure, in 2023, 31% of government expenditure went into state sector salaries. We have 1.5 million state sector employees. Many of them are in SOEs that are loss-making. Some of them are defunct and just running day to day. Now, these are all issues that have to be addressed as well. Now, we've seen this government talking about cutting down losses, cutting down wasteful expenditure. They're talking about removing a former president's security staff. They're talking about a member of parliament not taking his pension. I mean, a member of parliament's base salary is 54,000 rupees. Their pension is not going to drive the country bankrupt. 1.5 million state sector employees. The government in their budget have said they're going to introduce another 30,000 state sector employees. So are they actually committed to cutting down expenditure where it really is costing the people? SOEs across the board, we have spoken about liberalizing the SOE sector, the need to bring in public-private partnerships, so that we're, one, ensuring that they are run efficiently, they're turned into profit-making ventures, and they take the burden off the public. Why is the public having to pay for an SOE like Hilton or the Grand Hyatt? It's 3.5 built on Gore Road, yet our taxes are still going to maintain it. Not, let's forget even building it. Now, why are those not? Those must be priority for this government. They need to look at what our expenditure is and where they can actually take tough decisions and ensure that the expenditure reduces, but then the burden on the taxes comes down. We're not seeing that. Like I said, they're playing politics right now. They're claiming that the 225 members of parliament are bleeding the state coffers dry. The figures don't match up to it. 900 plus billion rupees went into state salaries in 2023. What are these state sector employees doing? I'm not saying that we just have to fire them and send them home, but they need to look at alternatives, and that the best way to ensure their financial stability and security is private-public partnership. We're not seeing this government pursue those options. So right now they seem to be hiding behind taxation. They are standing up, and they first blamed us for signing the IMF agreement, saying that now they can't get out of it. Then last week, I think it was one of the ministers, I'm not sure which one, so I'm not going to say who, but he stood up in parliament and described themselves as the darlings of the IMF. And they said, I believe the SJB is no longer the darlings of the IMF, that the IMF managing director said bravo to the president. So now they have with open arms embraced the IMF program, but they're still running on a very simple and unfortunately short-sighted approach to economic recovery, which is taxation. Taxation is very short-term. Absolutely, we have to pay taxes, but we have to ensure that while we're paying taxes, we're also not funding loss-making ventures.
Because the positive